Thank you very much, Edward. Thank you for joining us today. I can't hear you yet. I don't know whether... Yes, that's
me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I can hear you now. I hope you're keeping well. I know how hard you work to protect and preserve our heritage. And we're talking in particular today of this building in Pietà. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Well, this is the latest application for the demolition of an old building, an old townhouse, which most likely dates to the turn of the 19th century, as most of the buildings along Pietà waterfront date to. I say the latest because there are a number of other applications and appeals, in fact, on demolition projects and to be replaced with either apartment blocks or in one particular case a hotel, which is related to the Zammetello project as we know it. So basically our mission is to try and safeguard Villa Fre, which is a Grade 2 listed property which belongs to the government. We are currently managing this property together with Heritage Malta. So
You've been working on the Villa Fre for quite a number of years now. How many years has it been?
Yes, well, we started in 2013. And then last year we went into this joint management with Heritage Malta. And in fact, towards the end of the year, we put in a request for the entire garden and house to be upgraded to a Schedule 1. So that's the highest form of protection of any monument in Malta. And of course, there's not much point in protecting just the site itself, but there's also the context. Now, even before we even came about, a number of buildings along the Pietà waterfront were scheduled way back in 2008, I believe. Amongst them, this particular building, which through PA 2738 of 2020 is being proposed for complete demolition to be replaced with an 8-story block of apartments. Now, our issue is twofold. Firstly, of course, because since our mission is the protection of Villa Fre, is the impact of this development on the gardens. As you rightly said, it will compromise the context of Villa Fre. It actually abuts the limitation of the Grade 2 scheduling, and it will completely obstruct part of the views from a number of the belvederes of Villa Fre. And the other issue is the actual building itself. I mean, we are also concerned with the other heritage buildings in the vicinity. Now, this particular house might not have the social historical value that Villa Fre has, but from what we could see, the documents uploaded to the planning authority, it is a building of high architectural value internally. It's also got a garden, and there are a number of architectural...
It's a beautiful townhouse, isn't it? It's a beautiful townhouse. Yes.
And far from not being salvageable, it can easily be, restored and turned into a townhouse. And further along the way, in fact, towards there's a very quaint alleyway which many people driving along Pietà Marina are familiar with. It's a dead end because the alley stops at the precincts of St Luke's Hospital. There is an entire collection of townhouses, boathouses, gardens, and even fields and orchards, which go all the way up to the St Luke's precincts, which are very well preserved. And over the past couple of years, there have been various planning applications for demolition. And like I said at the start, we are together with other entities, including the Pietà Local Council in Lartelua and other heritage concerns. We're fighting, for want of a better word, to have these buildings protected.
And what is the plan to replace this building? What's planned instead of this building?
An 8-story apartment block.
So more importance, do you really, as an architect, as a preservation architect also, and a person from the younger generation, do you believe we need all these new high-rise buildings in Malta?
Well, it's not. I mean, I don't feel I have the knowledge, perhaps, and maybe it's not really my field. But what I do believe is there should be a place for everything. This is a case of let's call it bad planning. The area was zoned back in 2006 as a 6+1 height. However, and this is something which we always argue, is that it's the maximum height allowable. Ultimately, when the planning authority assesses case by case, they need to look at the greater picture. Now, in this situation, we have a very highly preserved enclave of a fine example of Maltese streetscape, gardens, which need to be preserved. And I think the planning authority needs to live up to its name and say that this area needs to be rescheduled and protected for what it is. Now, of course, I can understand the owners of these properties are not going to like this. However, if then with this sort of approach of if it's now condemned because of certain policies of years ago, then the outlook is quite bleak. And now is the time to strike. So we're very adamant about this. We're not just doing this to protect the views of Villa Frere, which are very important, because I don't think I need to underscore how important Villa Frere is.
Edward, just very quickly, because our time is very limited since this is a news item. What should people do to support your application to perhaps stop or slow down or reverse this process? Just very briefly, please.
Well, people can submit a representation by simply sending an email to representations@pa.org.mt. They quote the PA number, which is PA 2738/20, and they just put their thoughts and their suggestions. If people go on Facebook and look up Friends of Villa Frere, it's an open site.
So they can find it over there.
And they can find further details over there.
I thank you very much, Edward. Good evening. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was Edward Side, a young architect who actually worked very hard to preserve our Maltese heritage and buildings. If you look at his Facebook, Friends of Villa Frere, and we'll put up some things over the blogs and perhaps the net news, so that if you wish, you can support his application. I'll be with you tomorrow at 7 p.m. I thank you for joining me once again. I'm Hogg for Net News. Good evening.